Well, good morning. Happy Monday. Um, I woke up to some news this morning that wasn't so happy, and it inspired this You Matter Monday for you guys this morning. So this morning I got news of someone that I hugged yesterday, passed away yesterday. And I'm not going to give any details because the family hasn't released anything and it's a private matter at this point. But here's the thing. This person made a point to come hug me yesterday. Hugs are powerful, and not only was it a hug, it wasn't just a little pat pat, kind of hug. It was a all on um embrace. And when I did some research and I was looking at the power of a hug and scientific facts behind it, I came up with 7 facts, and one of them is about the length of a hug, and it made me really happy that this person hugged me for probably 20 seconds. And, that's the final memory that I'll have of this person. And so I want you to hug. I want you to hug more. And I think when you hear some of these scientific facts, you'll want to hug more because you'll understand not only is it good for the other person, right? But it's good for you too. And it makes more difference than you actually realize. So let's talk about some scientific facts. First, it triggers oxytocin, which is like a bonding hormone. It gives you this feeling of like trust and emotion. It's a connection feeling, right? So it helps you feel connected. It's powerful, and we need that in our lives, right? We need that feeling of connection, especially in today's world where we feel so lonely, even though we have social media right at our fingertips. We can really feel lonely, right? So having that connection point, that connection moment is important. Um, Believe it or not, actually receiving a hug or giving a hug um, helps lower it actually helps lower cortisol, which is the stress hormone, which is also the hormone responsible for weight gain, especially around your belly, usually. And so, what a new diet exercise program, right? Let's just hug each other skinny. Like, I love that thought. Let's just hug each other skinny. But give someone a hug and help lower that stress hormone. And I would say hug until you feel the stress starting to release, right? Which brings us to the 20-second sweet spot. But it scientifically, it says if you hold a hug for at least 20 seconds, it that's when all these hormones really start to stimulate. Um, you'll feel the amplification of the calming effects, the bonding effects. So scientifically, it says shorter hugs are still helpful, but the longer the hug, the more of these chemicals that are released. So again, hold the hug until you start feeling some of this, right? Unless it's just really awkward with the person that you're hugging. But I would say there's probably someone in your life that you can hug and feel these hormones being released and all of this good stuff. Okay. It also boosts dopamine and serotonin, which are kind of the pleasure hormones, the reward mood regulation hormones. So if you're in a bad mood, just go give someone a great big old hug and hold it for 20 seconds and see how your mood doesn't change. It will change. It also says, okay, these are fascinating. This one especially. Hugs benefit your cardiovascular health. Because it releases these hormones, because it releases the stress, it is actually lowering your blood pressure. Hello, who doesn't want some like forget, you know? Um, like I said, we could work ourselves healthy, get healthier by hugging, right? Healthy by hugging. Maybe that should have been the title of today's message. Healthy by hugging. Um, and then a physical affection, it actually strengthens immunity by doing this. When you reduce your cortisol and you elevate these good hormones, it actually strengthens your immunity. So that's a great thing too, right? Again, healthy by hugging. And then it can help. This was shocking to me. I didn't realize this, but it can help you reduce your cravings and improve healing because those stress hormones often cause you to crave. So if you're struggling with cravings, just start hugging more people. So we're going to hug our way to health, right? Hug our way to health. And I'm not saying don't take all the medicine that you're supposed to be taking. I'm not saying not to do those things or go to the doctor or anything like that. I'm just saying God gave us this natural ability to stimulate happy hormones and good things through physical touch. And I want to share a few examples because it is important that we realize that Jesus did this. Jesus was compassionate and showed passion through physical touch. Okay. So, when in Matthew 8, when they're talking about the leper, and in that time period, if you were a leper, you were considered untouchable, unclean, like they lived in isolation, they were rejected from society. But Jesus reached down and touched the man. He not only touched him, but he restored his health. Not only his health, but his dignity, his humanity. Like it was compassion through physical contact. Okay. That's just one example. In Mark 10, Jesus also takes the children into his arms. And so it talks about how the disciples were trying to shoo the children away, basically. And Jesus like, no, and he brought them closer to him. Closer to him. Okay. Um, there's just example after example in scripture. I can't help but think of the woman who just touched the hem of his garment. Just the touch of that was healing. So there's so many examples. Why aren't we doing this in a healthy way? So I think part of it is because society has warped physical touch in a way. And so we need to make it healthy again. And we need to hug people like we mean it. Because we don't know when it will be our last hug with someone. Um, when I woke up this morning to this news, all I could think about was the intentionality of this person yesterday. I was praying with someone. They walked up and stood and waited. And I said, "Hey, what's up?" And she said, "I just want to give you a hug." And she's gone, just like that. It was a powerful hug, and I'm so thankful that that is my last memory of such a sweet person. So, who are you going to hug today? And how can you hug from afar? Here's the thing now. Physical contact, I just shared the 7 scientific proven facts on physical touch. But how can we do some of these things, right? How can we increase the good hormones, release the bad hormones from afar? Maybe there's someone who is away from you. How can you, maybe they live far away or whatever. How can you boost that from afar? So think about today who you can hug physically in person and who you can hug from afar and how. How can you do that? So, maybe that'll be next week's video on how you can hug from afar. But that's all I have for today. I'm going to keep it short. I think it was powerful. I'm processing what I woke up to this morning, and just the experience of yesterday, and just how sweet of a moment that was. And I'm thankful. I'm so thankful that that was my last moment with that person. Um, not thankful that it was the last moment, but that if I had to have a last moment, that was it. Does that make sense? Because by no means am I thankful that she's not here. So just know that it happens, right? Life is not guaranteed, and it happens. And so hug those you can today, and know that when you're doing it, you're healing through hugs. So go out and hug somebody. I also want to give you a quick, so I don't know if you saw my shirt last week, but it says "You Matter" on the front. I think this is going to become my new Monday shirt. And I wore it out in public last week. And this is what the back says, just so you know. The back says, "To the person behind me, you are amazing, beautiful, and enough. Remember that." And I was out and about and I was doing something. I don't even remember where I was, but this lady, she said, "Thank you." And I was like, "You're welcome. Thank you for what?" And she said, "Thank you for what your shirt says." And I couldn't even remember what it said on the back. I knew it said something along those lines, but she read it and it meant something to her. So to me, that's kind of a hug from afar, right? I didn't have to hug her. She was a stranger, but it was just reminding her that she mattered. So I pray that you'll find ways to hug in person and from afar today. And if you're watching live, let me know. Just send me hugs in the comments. And if you're watching the replay, let me know the ways that you would hug from afar. And we will chat more about that next week. So thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And please be in prayer for the family members of this sweet, sweet person. So thank you for being here. Until next week.